Hey guys, so today's video is just going to be a quick one about adjusting some of the tiers for some of the guns. I had more time to think about which guns deserve to go in which spots, as well as I've gotten to talk to some more people and discuss about, just like the strength and power of the guns. And then some of the guns which I haven't really used as much since the new update, I've had more time to use, so I'll have like a more informed opinion on. So the number one question people were asking me about my last tier list was about D-pad. So the reason why I think D-pad is S tier is because, like I mentioned in the last video, it gives you stealing. So stealing is, in general, just a very powerful mechanic. Being able to steal any item you want from a store is just very powerful. A lot of the stores sell extremely strong items and guns. So a lot of time you can get a free S tier or A tier gun from a store, or just an S tier A tier item. And because you see a lot of, you can generally see like 2 or 3 stores, um, even more depending on, the run. This item can generally, like stealing in general, will net you a ton of like free stuff that you would normally not be able to get, and that stuff is usually very strong. So just utility alone, this weapon gives you stealing. So that's like, I mean, that already puts it in probably like A tier, right? But then the fact that you get essentially a very high chance to get a black chest, or I think it's either a black chest or like, I don't know exactly what the distribution of chests is, but I know for sure that you do get a ton of black chests. The last 5 times I've used this, I've gotten 5. Now that might just be me getting lucky, but it certainly isn't just like pure luck. Like this item is very ridiculous, or this gun is very ridiculous because you get so many good chances to reroll for something else. So it's very strong while you have it, and then once you run out of ammo, or if you want to swap for a better item or gun, you can just use up all the ammo and get it. And then this weapon is actually like pretty good combat wise. Like there's 2 combos you can do. The grappling hook, which is the stealing part of this weapon, but the grappling hook is a double tap left, so it's not that hard of an input. And while you're grappling hooked, you're immune to all bullets. You're immune to all damage essentially, and you also can reposition across an entire room. So if you're in a big boss fight, like say you're getting cornered by Bullet King or something, you can just quickly double tap this and then pull yourself to the other side of the room. Even if you get hit by bullets or anything, it doesn't matter because you're invincible. So it's really strong to reposition yourself in boss fights. And then if you do down and right really quickly, you get a fireball. So the fireball does 45 damage, and that's a lot of damage. I think that's the same as the Mega Hand. So I mean, it shoots relatively quickly too. I think it shoots maybe faster than the Mega Hand. So and it shoots 3 on burst as well. So I mean, certainly this weapon is pretty very strong, just on its own. Like Mega Hand is an A tier, and this weapon is, if you use it correctly with the fireballs and the grappling hook, it's kind of like a Mega Hand with the ability to reposition. Um, Combining the strength of the weapon on its own with the power to steal things, and the fact that you can basically reroll into another S tier weapon or item, I think this weapon is easily an S tier in my opinion. So a lot of people were a little confused about that. So I just wanted to clear up like why I personally think this weapon is really good. So I'm gonna keep this in S tier. This is kind of my reasoning behind it. A few people, someone said that Railgun didn't deserve to be S tier. This is kind of understandable. Railgun on its own is really, really powerful, but I can see how it wouldn't be necessarily a run winner. I personally think Railgun is really strong because it's similar to BSG, except that it's usable in both situations in the sense that you can shoot off Railgun into a room and it'll basically kill everything, or at least heavily damage everything, kind of like BSG does. BSG just kills them, but Railgun also can be used on bosses, especially for really fat bosses like Beholster or the Rat second phase. This weapon just shreds them, and it is pretty ammo efficient. Like it only has 40 shots, but those 40 shots go a long way. So I think Railgun is really strong. I could definitely see it being high A instead of S though. Again, it kind of depends on personal preference. So I'm going to keep this in S tier. Someone mentioned that Sunlight Javelin was an A tier, so I heavily agree with this. This weapon is really strong. I would say it's kind of in between Heroine and Mega Hand, and so for like, it's basically, there's no reason why this shouldn't be A tier. It doesn't very high damage, very ammo efficient. It's very safe for the same reasons that these 2 weapons are safe. Yeah, it's just a very good charge weapon. I misplaced it last time. Let's take a look at a few more. So I think my tier list was largely accurate, but again, there are a few things I need to adjust. So someone also mentioned a case for Radgun being S tier, and they were saying that Radgun is extremely powerful and you can use it on any boss. It's very ammo efficient. So while I do agree with all those things, I don't think it's quite an S tier because Radgun on its own won't really win you a run necessarily because Radgun, it is very strong. You can one shot pretty much all normal enemies if you have a high charge level, and you can shred bosses with it. But the problem with Radgun is that the reload for the damage is not really sustainable in a boss fight. So what that means is that obviously you have to keep reloading it, and it gets harder and harder. Eventually, you're gonna drop the reload. So when you do that, it takes generally a few seconds to get it back up, to get to back to full damage. And as well, if you drop it, if you drop it during a boss fight, it can be very hard to focus on the reload and dodge bullets. And honestly, and during that point, you're not going to be doing any damage because you're going to be doing these reloads. So you have a huge drop in DPS during that time. Combined with the fact that bosses have a DPS cap, even if you make it to like a very late level, you generally just don't have the damage. You won't have the damage to break the DPS cap normally. So the Radgun, you're basically going to hit the DPS cap very easily, but eventually you're going to hit a point where um, you're going to have to drop that reload and do it again, and then it takes concentration to do. This gun also only has 250 ammo, so while the high level ammo is really efficient, you do have to waste a lot of ammo prepping the reloads. While I do think Radgun is like top A tier, I don't think it's quite strong enough to be a full S tier. But this weapon is certainly very good. If you get enough ammo drops, you could certainly use this weapon for the entire run. But it doesn't, it won't help you from not getting hit. And if just talking about S tier weapons in general, these weapons, a lot of them have to do with how strong they make you defensively as well. So like, they're strong because they do a lot of damage, but they're also because they do it very quickly. Like a lot of them break the DPS cap. So, I mean, makeshift cannon, Yari launcher, these are examples. Composite gun, it protects you because it blinks. BSG, it clears the room instantly. So it protects you from taking damage because they are aggressive. Black hole gun because it obviously just sucks up all the bullets. The cheese gun and Gunther because they have infinite ammo. And the Gunther is homing, so it clears rooms very quickly and it does insane damage. Cheese gun because it basically makes the game just like a free win because all the enemies in the rooms, like basically makes floors free wins because all the enemies just get cheesified and they just don't shoot at you. So Radgun, very good, but I wouldn't say quite S tier. Let's see. Someone mentioned that Unfinished Gun shouldn't be an F tier, and I thought about it a bit more and I agree with this. So Unfinished Gun is certainly not an F tier. It has piercing, it does okay damage, it's certainly usable early game. I don't think it's quite a C tier though. Thinking about it a bit more, I would say it's D tier. It's a little bit below average. I would pretty much rather have any of these weapons over Unfinished Gun, but Unfinished Gun, if you get it early on, is certainly not a terrible weapon. You can certainly use it for general room clearing. It's not as bad as I said. Certainly not as bad as the other weapons. And then Gilded Hydra, I want to move this up a tier. I still don't like Gilded Hydra that much, but that being said, it does a lot of damage. I guess the reason why I don't really like this weapon is because you have to be damaged for it to be good. So it kind of gets better the worse off you are. And that's not really a great situation to be in where a gun is only really good if you're taking a lot of damage. But that being said, it does good damage. If you are in a situation where you have a lot of heart containers, this weapon does get really strong. If you need to close out like a big boss battle near the end of the game where you don't have HP, then I guess Gilded Hydra would be fine. So I'm going to move this up a tier into C tier. Charge Shot. So I tried this weapon out. I didn't know that in the update this weapon got buffed, but basically they increased the ammo count of this weapon and they increased the clip size to 5 instead of 1, so you don't have to reload it between every shot. And now this weapon does insane damage. I'm going to put this in B tier because it has around, I think it has 60 ammo, and it does very, very good damage at piercing, so it's a very strong weapon. So it's probably on the very high end of B tier. I don't think it's quite A tier, just because it is a little limited by ammo. But it's certainly one of the best B tier weapons now, and I'm super glad this weapon is very strong in the new update. I really like this weapon a lot. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Third-party controller. So This weapon is really interesting. I tried it out a little bit more, and I would say I would move it up from E tier. I think it's D tier. And third party controller can seem really strong. Basically, what it does is when you hit somebody with it, when you hit an enemy with it, they become like that you control them. They mirror your movements. So when you shoot somewhere, they also shoot there, and when you move, they also move in that direction. Um, but this weapon is it's really hard to use because, well, first of all, on bosses it's useless. It doesn't do anything to bosses. But during rooms, when you hit an enemy with this, they instantly become under your control. But the problem is the bullets they shoot still hurt you. And the way it works is they shoot towards your cursor. So if your cursor is pointed to the right, but your cursor is still between you and them, they will still shoot at you. And also, this weapon overrides fire rates. So, like for shotgun, like if there was a shotgunkin and you shot with this weapon and you were controlling them and you shot, they would also shoot. But the thing is, like, there's a cooldown between normal enemy attacks. They only shoot like once every few seconds, right? But with this weapon, they basically shoot around. They try to match your fire rate. So there is a max, but they basically break their fire rate cap. So if you spam, if you hit an enemy with this weapon and then you start shooting your weapon really quickly, they will start shooting their weapon really quickly. So this weapon, if you use it like on an enemy, like just an enemy that shoots bullets everywhere, like a dice Bulon or whatever, I forget, chance Bulon, those enemies just flood the screen with bullets, and you just start shooting at other enemies. They're gonna start flooding the room with bullets, and then you're gonna get a little fucked over. So this weapon also does no damage as well. So like you could just control them, or you could just kill them with like a better weapon to start the room off with. It's better just to eliminate these like high threats and not deal with them. And then for low health enemies, like you could just kill them. There's no reason to control them necessarily. That being said, I don't think it's like the worst weapon. I don't think it's a little better than E tier, just because if you walk into a room with like a single enemy, you can just charm them right away, and then they won't fire anymore. So you can kind of use it to pacify um, large enemies or just dangerous enemies at the start of the room, because then they won't shoot until you shoot. If the room is pretty empty, then you can just not shoot and you'll be safe. Looking at Crown of Guns, I think somebody mentioned that Crown of Guns was better than E tier, simply for the fact that you can find secret rooms with it. I would agree with that. Secret rooms are really annoying to find if you can't find them in your chest room, and this weapon has so much ammo that it's basically just going to become a secret room finder. But honestly, this weapon is, I tried it a little bit more. This weapon is really not that bad on its own against against enemies in certain situations. So if you're getting chased by like contact enemies, or if you're getting surrounded by really weak enemies, this weapon is basically the best weapon you can have in that situation. So think of like situations where you're in the hollow and you're getting chased down by, like it's in the dark room where all the little, like the zombie guys come at you, or in the rat area where he summons, like in the rat mech fight where he summons um, all those like little suicide rat guys. This weapon is certainly useful in those situations, just for spamming bullets in all directions. It's certainly not the worst, so I'm gonna put this in D tier. And then I think finally I'm gonna put the JK up a tier. I want to put it in D tier. I got this gun recently in a pilot run where I didn't have like anything better to fight a boss with. It's not like it's certainly like a lot worse than the AK, but it's not like that bad, honestly. It's like okay. It's the slow fire rate is really annoying, but the damage on its own is like it's not the worst really. The fear can be pretty useful as well if you're in rooms where you are getting a little bit cornered. The fear is pretty useful to just get enemies to back off. So I'm gonna put this in D tier. I think it's okay. Yeah, looking over this, I don't think anything else needs to really be moved around. I might make another video like this, just addressing some of the concerns later on in the future, but for now I think this is pretty much going to be my finalized opinion on the tiers. I think this looks pretty good to me. So yeah, thanks for watching.